anything else before we
No, let's do it.
Are you in a closet, Alicia?
No, I'm in my room. It's
Oh,
like
okay.
it's like a dorm room. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. Where are you at?
I'm in Rexburg.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay.
Is it cold?
Not yet. Well, a little bit. I think that it's, let me see how many degrees outside it is. It's 58.
Oh, that's cold.
That's like
Yeah.
warm here.
In Vegas, if we get below like 72, we have coats on.
Like parkas, like heavy
Yeah.
jackets.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It was cooler like the beginning of this week here. I'm in Arizona and it was like 60 degrees and my daughter gets up and she goes outside. She's like, Mom, it feels like winter.
That's funny.
Yes, we're babies. We're babies over here. Where are you from, Alicia?
I'm also from Idaho as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not very interesting.
What part of Idaho?
It's close by here. It's a little town called Ryrie.
Okay.
That's where I was raised.
I think that might be where my nephew's serving right now.
Really?
How fun. Yeah, how fun. Anyway, okay.
Okay, so we will get into this. And so what we're supposed to talk about for the first part of this is why does the varsity team lose to the JV team? So
I feel like it's pride, like a lot of pride.
yeah. The thing that stuck out to me the most is that when they paired off or there was only 4 of them in a boat, they were fine. But once they got the 8 together, they just were not cohesive. And so I feel like, I don't know, like one of them, I think that they all had an ego problem, like you said, like very prideful. Like they just couldn't get it together when they were all together. Maybe they felt like one guy wasn't doing their part. And so when they switched out the boat, maybe that guy got put on the different boat. And so then the rest of them, I don't know. It was just very not cohesive. Just not a,
Right.
Just not a good.
I wrote down attitude, that they had too much, and pride is actually the perfect way to describe it. Too much individual attitude. The other thing that I think kept them from winning is their lack of communication. As the reading continued further, it made it apparent when they had that big, huge blow up at the end that they said, I'm the one doing all the work. And somebody else said, no, I'm the one doing all the work. Nobody had communicated their frustration to anybody besides those secret emails to the coach.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So do you think did they engage in too much conflict? Or do you think the didn't engage
quite enough? Like, I kind of feel like in my other business class where we kind of studied this one, like it talks about how like when you trust someone, you can engage in like, mature conflict with them. Like you can tell them like, hey, don't do that, and I don't think that they trusted each other enough to do that.
That was a really good point.
I agree.
I haven't even considered. That is a really good point. I'm gonna write that down. Trust. Ooh, grab a pen. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. Like, you're right, because when you have a good relationship with people, you're able to engage in that kind of, hey, I feel like and maybe not even like pointing out like, hey, you did this. Or instead of saying and like being specific, like the JV team, they were never specific. They just said generally across the board, I think we could have done this better. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So, and then the next question is there an appropriate place for conflict among the members of the varsity crew? I think we kind of touched on that. Should they avoid it at all?
Well, I don't know that in this particular instance, conflict could have been avoided. It started from the very beginning. It started in Atlanta, right after they were upset that they had lost to the JV team.
That's where it started, was that they lost to the JV team?
Yeah, in Atlanta, right after the Atlanta retreat, right?
That's when it like vocally started feeling that way, but maybe it started like a little bit before, like inside their hearts kind of a thing. Like they were like, oh man, I'm the one that keeps this team alive. That's why we're winning.
Right.
Right.
Or do you they were all really strong rowers? Do you think that they just like, yep, I'm the best, and I can tell that that person isn't. So from the get-go, they just had that bad, I'm better than that person. And so when they start losing, they start pointing fingers at that point and being like, yep, this sucks. Yep, they suck. And so.
You know, it could have been too, and I don't blame the coach if this is the approach he had to take. He did a lot of, when they were doing their seat racing, that's what it's called, right? He did a lot of, it says, provided systematic data about how well each rower did. And he did so many cross sections and so many different combinations of people. And there's a likelihood of doing that many tests that they were getting frustrated with each other. Like maybe boy A didn't really like to row with boy C, and he had been with them at that point 8 different times and had not felt his best when he was with him. But in the end, they were both one of the 8 strong rowers, and so they were put together, and there was conflict even from just the different seating in all of the seat testing, because the seat testing went on forever and ever and ever.
Right.
That makes sense what I'm saying? So there was a lot of opportunity for conflict to build, or for frustrations to build with each other because of the different seating.
I hadn't even thought about that.
No.
So scholars identify 2 types of team conflict. One of them is task conflict, where people disagree about the task to be accomplished, or effective conflict, where people have interpersonal conflict, where people get frustrated and angry with one another. So I think that they had the effective conflict, where they just got frustrated and mad, but they didn't ever voice it. And so I feel like it just kept building and building and building. And so when they kept losing, I mean, they're supposed to be the elite team, and they kept losing to the lower team. That builds anger and frustration. And they just never talked about it. So, I mean,
I think that it also kind of like built into personal frustration, because like at first they were like frustrated, like you said, with that, and then eventually it probably got to the point where they were like, oh man, well, rower C, like, it's for like, look what he's not doing and look what this is doing, and then they started like building this personal problem with each other too. So I think they kind of both going on.
I agree. Okay,
I
so
agree as well.
What role did trust play in the problems the varsity crew faced?
I think that they didn't trust each other, that they could express their like feelings with each other.
Yeah, they probably didn't trust that the other person was going to do their job. Like they didn't trust that rower C was gonna whatever, you know, when they pull back or whatever, where they glide. I don't remember the exact terming, but I mean, I could imagine that because they started losing, they were thinking, I don't trust that guy to pull his weight. I don't trust him to pull his weight.
Well, another thing about the trust that goes into it, on page 7, halfway down the page, it talks about where the coach was asking his rowers to email one another with the goal of mutual supporting one another. And there were, you know, he made it a point in the case study to let us know that the JV were so supportive of each other. And in the varsity team, they were constantly throwing out negatives about individually, you know, like me saying to you, I really suck. But it didn't seem like there was any feedback to that. There wasn't anybody trying to help build a trust relationship or even team building by supporting each other and saying, actually, I think you did great. You know, there's nothing outlined in the case that shows that the varsity was even willing to lend support to each other.
Right. No, there wasn't. They just did. Yeah. Like, they just didn't care. I don't know if they cared or if they got to a point where they're like, you know what, this just isn't working, so I'm done. Maybe they got to the point where they just stopped trying and just, there's no point. This isn't working. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's true.
You know, at some point you just give up because you feel like the person sitting next to you isn't doing their job, so why should you? And that, I think, all goes back to trust also. So is trust in the team the same as trust in an individual team member?
Is it the same?
Trust in the team and trust in an individual team member, the same thing.
I think that I think they definitely support each other. Like you can't trust the team without trusting an individual. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that you can do that, but I don't know. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
You think they go hand in hand?
I think they're close to each other.
So I might disagree a little bit with that. And the only reason why is because when they took out players from or rowers from JV and switched in with the varsity team still won. So,
Or JV.
or which one? You know, that was a question on the quiz, and I got it wrong because I put the JV. Oh no, I think you're right because I got that question wrong, and I think the answer was
Yes. They didn't, so they didn't win, but they would excel in their time. So
right.
he knew that they were still the stronger rowers on the varsity because when he would switch them out, JV would be propelled higher because of the better people on the
Right.
boat, but they wouldn't necessarily win.
Right. So moving the JV believed in their team. So adding those two players, the two rowers, and switching out the other two, I think JV believed, regardless of who was on their team, that they had the better, or that they were at least. So I don't know. I could be wrong in reading it that way. That I don't know. I guess.
I feel like I just feel like lack of, you asked if it's the same thing. I think trust is the same thing, no matter if you're applying trust in Heavenly Father, applying trust in a person, I think the definition is the same. So it's kind of a weird question, I think, actually, that they're having you ask us.
Yeah.
You feel like collectively, at this case, collectively, they absolutely did not trust the team. And it seemed to be, I just think that there was hops and skips in who, like so-and-so didn't like Jim. I can't remember their names. I think
Right.
Jim was one of the names. So-and-so didn't like Jim, but that doesn't mean that the other guy didn't like Jim. Maybe the other guy didn't like Jerry, or maybe Jerry didn't like Bob. You know, I just think it was enough discord that the team just couldn't work. But I don't feel like in the story that everybody hated everybody
Right.
on the varsity team. I just think there must have been enough discord between different people, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So I think they could have not trusted some people, and that lent to just the whole team falling apart enough. Very similar to their rowing. Very, very similar to their rowing. When they're rowing, and they had us watch that video, you have to be in sync, everybody. And if one person's out of sync, the rest feel it, but they cannot alter their course. They have to keep rowing, right? And it's kind of the same thing with the trust. They must have just had enough discord. And I don't think it's just one person. I think there might have been a couple different people that didn't trust each other, but it created enough that it just broke up the trust of the team.
So can you still trust? Can you still trust the team individual? Like, can you trust the team, or do you think they go hand in hand? Like, let's say at work you are on a work team, or even like our class meetings or our groups that we're working in. Can you have trust in the team as a whole, but maybe not trust one individual to get their stuff done, but trust in the team to get it done?
Yes, I do believe that.
I agree.
But I think
especially if you look at it spiritually, like if you take it on a spiritual level, you can trust in maybe the sanctity of marriage, even if you had a bad one, or something like that. So I do think philosophically, yes, you can trust in the team without trusting an individual.
Right. Okay. But I mean, obviously, if there is one bad person, the team as a whole isn't going to be as strong as they would. But I think your team can pull you up regardless of the one bad apple, if you will, and still come together as a team. And maybe at that point, pull the person who isn't functioning as well up to the level that maybe they just need extra support. Maybe they need a little extra push or a little extra love, and be able to then function better as a team by doing that. But it's interesting because the rowing is so different because you have to be in sync. So it's kind of a hard analogy to make when you're comparing the rowing with a business team or whatever. I don't think they're quite equal because the boat won't succeed if the rowers aren't in sync. Where I think a team in work or in school or whatever can be successful if everybody does a little bit more than the person who's not participating in participation. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so the next question is, what happens to team trust if you replace one member of the team?
It depends on who the member is, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If you replace the bad apple, your trust in the team is going to go up.
Right, but if you leave the bad apple and you replace somebody else,
then it's going to go down, I think.
right.
So what happened toward the end of the case when the coach switched varsity individuals with JV individuals? What does this prove?
What was the last part of the question?
They just want to know what that proves. So what happened toward the end of the case when the coach switched the varsity with the JV individuals, and what does that prove?
I think it just proved that there is a lack of, I want to say trust again. We've been saying trust a million times, but I can't think of another word. A lack of trust with them collectively as a group, because it didn't matter who he switched over, that JV team was better than the JV team is alone. So he was switching his strong members over, and it was proving a point to him that, yes, I've got the strong members over here. And so I just think it proves to a lack of distrust and a lack of cohesiveness. They just didn't want to work together.
Right.
In the varsity team.
Right.
So what point on the HR level does that, like if you take it to an HR level and take it out of the boat, what does that prove? Does that prove that even though you have the strongest players, if they don't get along together, it's not going to be a cohesive team?
I think it, well, go ahead, Mallory. Or I mean, Alicia, sorry.
Well, okay, I was thinking about it because I remember, okay, so, and this kind of going back to sports, but, and I see, okay, I'm just gonna go. So, like, my little sister and me both grew up playing basketball, and I remember when I was in school, there was a bunch of strong players, like, very, very, very talented girls, and they wanted so bad to go to state, and they never made it, and that's too bad. But, and then my little sister had this team that they grew up playing with each other since they were little, and they learned how to just kind of trust each other. And none of them, to be honest, like if I was comparing the girls in my grade with the girls with them, if they were on a one-on-one thing, the girls in my grade would have killed them. Like there's so much more like
raw talent.
Build, yeah. But the thing is that my little sister's team, they just loved each other. Well, like, and they just were honest with each other. They were straightforward with each other. They did their jobs and they knew where they needed to be, and they ended up going to state and winning it. And so I think that that's like a good example, like with teams, like if you don't have that teamwork, it doesn't really matter how great you are. Like, it doesn't really matter. If you want a big job done, it's not going to happen.
That's a good example. Okay, so our next question then is, how did the rivalry between the two boats influence varsity's performance?
I could see when they mentioned that it was consistently that they were upset that the team was pitting them against, or that the coach was pitting them against each other, and they were always losing where the JV didn't have anything to lose. I could see that a little bit. I was like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. You know, that they were getting upset that he kept doing that because they kept losing, and it was terrible for their morale because they shouldn't be losing to the younger team.
Right.
Or the worst team. I guess it's not necessarily younger.
Do you think though that competition in that way is beneficial? Maybe, like, is it beneficial to pit your weaker team against your supposed stronger team? Or is that just a means to create problems and a lack of confidence in your own ability, knowing that you are the strongest player because you were put on that first boat, to then lose to the lower team who doesn't have the level of skill that you supposedly have? Does that bring you down enough, or should that propel you to do better and propel your team to do better?
As a manager, I think it is beneficial for the lower team and not as beneficial exercise for the advanced team. And I feel like it was the coach's mistake to continue that exercise because it did not, he was trying to help his advanced team and it was not a good exercise for that purpose.
Yeah. So would you have stopped, if you were that coach, would you have stopped running the two teams against each other once you saw that it wasn't achieving the results you were looking for?
Yes, I would have started to do, and there was some discord in the team members with this as well, but I would have started to do more timing so they were against each other, against themselves, instead of the other team that was continually besting them.
Okay, so what other factors besides those listed in the first couple of questions do we see contributing to the varsity cruise problem?
What was the first part of that question?
They just want to know what other factors led to the varsity cruise problems besides what we've already talked about, the trust, running against each other.
I actually think we've touched on most of the factors. I can't think of something. I just think it was attitude, pride, coach mistake, but they all deserve to be there. So I don't know that, I can't think of any other factors. Can you, Alicia?
I'm trying to like pull. I'm pulling from I'm pumping from a dry pump, but because we kind of took it. But I think that maybe maybe if they had like some sort of training on how to talk to each other, how to discuss problems, like maybe that could help. Like maybe it's their lack of knowing how to have conflict. I don't know.
Yeah. So how did their problems then evolve over time? Is there a key point when their downward spiral started?
From an HR standpoint, I actually feel like the coach needs to take the rap on this one. Because he, like we discussed before, his first hint of discord was after the Atlanta retreat, and that was after the seating, and they were placed in boats. They were upset that I can't remember, I don't know when, now I'm starting to get confused. But anyway, I think that's when they were upset that they had lost, or that, no, they won, excuse me, they won, but they didn't win by a big enough time. Right? That was the issue in Atlanta. So when he heard that at the beginning, he probably should have had some sort of a sportsman attitude training with them and said, hey, buddies, take a back seat, realize, be happy for your win. Don't be negative in front of the others, whatever. But he should have, from the very get-go, realized there was discord and tried to step in and do something to help that.
Yeah. So he said that was a good sign that when the boats or when the varsity members appeared unhappy and critical of one another about why they had not defeated the JV boat by a greater margin in Atlanta, he took it as a good sign. I thought this was an indicator of their striving for excellence. In retrospect, it should have been seen as an element of the hard experience. So, yeah, I think that though could have been misconstrued as desire to do better. But in the weeks following, seeing that it wasn't them desire to do better, he should have stopped it right there and figured out what. I mean, how long did he wait? He waited like months, right? Trying.
It was a long time.
Like the whole season, trying to figure out why they weren't getting it together. He should have just reflected back on the thing and been like, "Oh, wait a second, something was not right from the beginning." And instead of dragging it on for months like he did, he should have just stopped. All right.
Yes, because they lost it at the Hudson, right? So right when they got back to campus, during the team's first practice on the Hudson River, the JV boat immediately beat the varsity boat. So, I mean, we went from the Atlanta seeding, and there he had a hint of discord to that first loss. And then it seemed like he didn't do much after that to help him for a while.
Yeah, he should have. At least, I mean, I could see him giving it like a month to see, okay, maybe there is a problem. Let me see how I can fix it. Like giving it a month to try and work itself out. But I mean, I want to say it was through like the whole season because I think they went on spring break or something in between half of this. So, I mean, he really dropped the boat on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So should the coach have stepped in? I guess we kind of talked about this a little bit, but should the coach have stepped in to provide better leadership himself, or should he have encouraged one of the team members to provide leadership?
I think both.
Because they said in the case that there was no clear leader on the team. What do you think led to that? Do you just think, like, at the very beginning, none of them had the confidence to become the leader, or they didn't feel confident in their own skills to step up and be like, hey, you know what, I'm going to take charge and kind of be the team cheerleader? And
Except that they have that, is it called a coxswain?
yeah.
And they had a coxswain, right?
Yeah. But he wasn't.
So the coxswain is supposed to steer the boat, motivate the team, and set this racing strategy.
And nobody.
So maybe he had a terrible coxswain.
Oh, maybe just put the wrong person in place. How do they determine that? Does anybody know who becomes the coxswain?
I don't know.
I don't remember them saying, did they?
I don't think so. I wonder if it was a combination of the person that had the best time, the strongest skill set, whatever. But sometimes being strong in one area doesn't make you strong in another. And so maybe they should have done more not psychological testing at the beginning, but more team building skills to see if a leader did emerge among that. And then, you know, I mean, he's obviously, that boat has the best talent in there. So there's got to be one guy who's got both talent in the water and in team building.
Yeah.
Okay, so what should coach have done differently earlier in the season to resolve the problem?
He needed to have more. He needed to have more team building exercises going instead of just always focusing on winning strategies of, you know, practicing racing and all that. They talked about how he and Satan had put together, you know, plans for them to work out and all of that stuff. Maybe once a week he should have pulled away from the extra workout, which would have been extra time on the team members instead of just rowing, practicing. Maybe he should have pulled one of their workout days and had a team building day, like literally every week.
Right.
Because he had excess time that he had already asked them to set aside for rowing, minus being in the water. So he should have utilized that time differently.
When do you think he should have done that? Like, if you could say.
Well, I mean, hindsight's 2020. So I'm gonna say he should have done it from the beginning. But as far as the story went, after those first couple losses to JV, and because he continually pitted them against each other, and he could see the downfall of the team, that he should have stepped in. It should have been a huge warning sign.
Yeah. Alicia, any thoughts on that?
Just the same thing. I think that he could have done a little bit differently there.
Okay, I think we were pretty specific on what we think he should have done as far as, well, okay, so I'll take it a step farther. When you say team building skills, what do you mean?
Well, there's all sorts of things that people can do. There's a lot of really stupid things, you know, like trust falls. I mean, there's a lot of that kind of stuff that everybody's done a million times in their life. But there's also things that they could have served together. Maybe they could have done some sort of community service if they needed to do that to help build each other, or they could have served within their units in the Army. You know, they are well aware of different needs, I'm sure, in that type of situation with them already being servicemen, literally, that they could have picked other things. So they could have done team building exercises. They could have done service in the community. They could have done, what else?
I think there's something do, or that he could do, is just like show them how to talk to each other. Like, hey, like why aren't we talking to each other? Like, why, like, or that, like, hey, we're gonna give each other some critical feedback of each other sometimes, and just don't take it personally. Like, it's not something against you. It's just gonna help our team be better. So if somebody like has a recommendation, give it a try. If not, well, and I think that could have been good if he kind of showed them how to communicate with each other.
I can specifically think of. Like retreats, like do a retreat where you're connected from the world. Take phones, take keys, and you're in a room together, and let's just like be buddies. Like, I think that they lacked a sense of camaraderie too. Like, they just weren't friends. Like, they just you know, I think you have to trust people that you become friends with. So, you know, it goes back to that whole trust thing, but just build a friendship and a camaraderie, and where you can be just buddies on the water and off the water. I think that would have led to
better.
Yeah, even a lunch meeting. If you didn't want to do it weekly, 2 times a month, they get together instead of working out and have lunch. You know, just some hangout time.
Right. Yeah. Just like chill time. Like take
Yeah,
off.
that's not so stressful.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine that rowing like that is stressful, and they were already feeling pressure because they were losing to the team that wasn't as good as them, and I mean all of that pressure. Go get a massage or something, like a team massage or.
Which I have never done before, by the way.
Either, but can you? It says come up with crazy ideas of what you think that they can do. So I mean, go get a team.
I feel like actually kind of good because like when you guys try new things together,
right,
it makes you trust each other more. Like if you go do like a ropes course and you kind of know you're gonna look like an idiot, but you're like, "Okay, I'm with you guys, and we're just gonna laugh about this." Like,
right, yeah. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that they could have and maybe should have done. I would be curious to know what they're doing now, if they learned anything from that experience, to know what school was this at? I don't even remember.
Oh man.
Oh, at West Point. So I'd be curious to know what they're doing now with their rowing teams are. Did they ever incorporate any more team building activities, and what is it that they're doing? Okay, so do you guys look up and see what happened, how they resolved it?
I didn't. I was waiting for you to tell me, but I didn't.
Yeah, so what the coach did after he called them all, you know, to the picnic table, and they just didn't get, you know, they started pointing fingers and be like, it's his fault. He walked away and he was thinking about it. And so what he did was he called them all, I can't remember if it was like the next day or the next week, whatever, but he called them all back to like a grassy field and told them they had 90 seconds to wrestle it out with each other. So he picked one guy and then pulled another guy, and they like wrestled out. He said, there's only one rule, you can't punch each other. So they were like full on wrestling, these grown military men wrestling in the grass. And it took, I think he said it took like four rounds of these guys just, you know, wrestling for one guy to sit up and just start laughing. And then that broke the tension, and they just and then it was like one big dog pile. And after that, their times were better and they improved as a team. And so he didn't end up switching. The varsity team ended up competing. It didn't say if they won or not, but after that complete brawl, they all got along and life was good. So I thought
that's hilarious.
Like, so can you imagine these 8 military men like pummeling each other and just like dogpiling and wrestling and being little boys, but it broke the tension that they had, and they realized that they were all equally strong as each other because it wasn't one dominating the other. They were all equally strong. And after that, the tensions broke and they were good. And their rowing improved after that. So why do you think that response worked? Why was it the fact of them just kicking each other's butt? Why did it work?
I think, I don't know, I kind of think it goes back to like how ridiculous like things make you closer. Like after a while they're just like, this is so stupid, like why are we doing this?
Right.
And just laughing about it and being like, okay, this is funny actually. So
I actually think it's probably twofold. I think you mentioned it yourself that it proved to them they were each strong. Like one wasn't going to best the other in this wrestling thing. And then also, I may be showing too much of my own insecurities and issues, but you know, when you get so mad, the other day I got so mad at something, I just took my sunglasses off my head and I threw them on the ground because I was so mad. And I had reason to be mad, and it was okay. And it was my own thing. I was going to break if they were going to break, but I threw them on the ground. And sometimes you just have to release. You get so built up, you just have to release that tension. And I think his wrestling physically did that. I think it mentally did that for the boys because they could, you know, see that they were each strong. I don't know. I think it's actually quite brilliant. And boys will be boys.
Right. That's what
I mean,
I
only boys. Only boys would do something like that, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's
If
like,
they were women, it wouldn't work.
oh, it wouldn't, because we foster like emotions and where men, they just don't think on that level. They're just able to be like, yeah, I'm gonna beat you up and then I'm over it, we're buddies again.
Right.
Yeah. So he put in here in the case study, it says, obviously this could only work at a military school where the team members were trained in combat. Even then, someone could have been seriously harmed and Coach P could have been in serious trouble. What approaches other than pummeling each other might have worked that would have accomplished the same thing? Or do you think in this case a purely physical was the only way to snap him out of it? Or do you think there would have been could have been another approach that maybe would have had the same effect?
No, I don't disagree with his approach, to be honest. That may not add much to the discussion, but I think his approach was brilliant.
Would you have ever come up with that?
No, I would have never thought of that.
No, I don't think I would have ever thought about duking it out either. No.
No, I mean, that was because we teach our kids, you don't hit. That's not how you solve problems.
Yeah.
Right.
So but again, being a woman, that isn't in my, I mean, I would never go up to my best friend and punch her in the face and be like, all right, we're buds now.
Right.
You know, so I wonder what a male perspective would be on that. Like,
yes.
If, you know, like, oh, I could tell you that maybe going out and shooting hoops would have been the same. You know, I would be curious to know what a male approach or a thought process would be on that. So, okay, so what is the most important thing that you learned from this case? Jennifer, I'll start with you.
Okay. From the human resource perspective, would be to step in. I think the coach needed to be a leader sooner than he was a leader. I think he facilitated his job well. I think he found his strong rowers. I think he did everything that his job description says to do. But I think he lacked a bit of leadership and didn't step in when he should have. So I think that was an important thing to take away was when it's time to go ahead and either facilitate new rules or regulations or whatever you need to within your company that you are planning on doing human resource for, to make sure that things are smooth and that tensions aren't so high.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
That's what I took from it.
Alicia.
Okay, well, so I think that what I learned from it is just the importance of knowing how to conflict, like having the trust to have like good conflict. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's
be able to communicate and be able to speak how you feel without feeling threatened.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you both on that. I think the biggest thing for me that I learned was trust is essential in a team, but also as an individual. I think you have to trust yourself in order to trust the people around you. I think if you have a lack of trust in who you are as a person, you're going to have a hard time trusting other people. And so I think it's really important as people, you know, as people in society, we need to be able to trust ourselves, to trust that the people we're working with also trust themselves to do what's best for everybody in general. So, and I think that's what's wrong with our world right now. We just don't trust each other to be nice and to, you know, I just think it's so sad that there's a lack of people being kind to each other and like taking it back to basics. Like, let's just be kind and nice to each other. And then I feel like, I mean, it's not going to solve the world problem, but if everybody was kind and trusting, we wouldn't be in these issues that we're in. I don't think so. I think that was my biggest takeaway, is just being able to trust yourself and then trust the team that you're with. Yeah. Okay. So now that we're finished with our discussion, does anybody else have anything to add or covered pretty much?
No.
So
I think you did a great job.
Thank you. How would you rate the overall quality of today's discussion from 0 to 10?
I thought it was
Yeah.
really, not gonna lie, I'd probably give it like a 9 or a 10. I thought it was really good.
Okay.
Rate the quality of what, did you say?
Quality of the discussion.
Oh, I think given, it's a great case study, but I think given the case study, we hammered it out pretty well.
I think so too. I do too. So what did I do as a discussion leader that you liked?
I thought you were well prepared and asked thought-provoking questions.
And then
Yeah.
is there anything I could do better next time?
Nope.
Oh,
No.
you're so
Yeah,
nice.
I'm like sitting here and I'm like, I don't really know.
Oh, you're so nice.
I don't know.
Okay, cool. So that covers that. We're done with that. Then we're supposed to talk about the doohickeys problem, and since only 3 out of our 5 are here, my friend took the class last semester, and she kind of told me how they set it up. So I can show you. I created a Google Doc, like her outline. Did you see that?
Yeah, I was looking at it and I was like, what is this?
Yeah, so let me share my screen so I can show you, and then and we don't have to use it. It was just a way that she said that they worked so that not everybody.
Like everyone could get something done.
Yeah, so you're not waiting for somebody, you can do your own thing, and then we can fill in where we need to if we have to.
I think that's brilliant.
Oh yeah, I'm looking right at it. It's awesome.
Oh, I have it right here. So here, these are the next 2 topics that we do. So, and we can rearrange this. I was just trying to put names down so that we could see what we're doing. So like, we have to identify the 3 problems, which are these 3, and then we have to come up with 4 solutions for the problem. So if I took performance appraisals, what I would do is write, based on the doohickeys case, you would write what the problem is in the case, and then the other 4 would come up with a different solution to that problem and write a paragraph about it. So like here I wrote no fear reviews. Well, then Alicia, you would have to come up with something different. And she said that they required their team members to get 1 or 2 external articles to use as far as like their research part, so that they could each have a different solution. So if you looked up, I don't know, like the only reason why I knew this is because that's what we read this week, but there's probably a billion things on performance appraisals and how to solve the problem in the doohickey case that deals with the performance appraisals. I haven't read it all the way through yet, so I can't even remember what it's about. But
so, wait, the doohickey thing is when it was like giving you like, it was like, oh, you just got hired as this new HR person in this place, and there's all terrible stuff going on. You have to take it. That's it? Okay. Yeah. I was like, that's what I read and stuff, but I was just like,
Yeah, so because we talked about performance appraisals, that's going to be one problem. And then next week we talk about diversity, and that's going to be a problem. And then harassment is the 3rd week or the 5th week topic. And so for each of those topics, we have to identify the problem in the case as the problem 1, and then come up with 4 solutions.
Or 4 solutions. So
that's why we split it kind of like this. So one person just takes the problem, and then the other 4 do the solutions.
Right. So do you think?
And then, oh, go ahead.
So for problem 3, my name's like the big one right here.
Yeah.
What does that mean that I do?
So that would mean that you would identify the harassment problem in the case and write a paragraph detailing what the problem was.
Oh, okay. So like that girl was talking about how she was getting sexually harassed.
Right. That would be your paragraph. And then I would come up with, okay, I believe that they should approach the problem in this way. And then Jennifer, you would come up with a different solution. Be like, well, I think that they should do it this way. So that's right. For each, and then the next doohickeys problem, we can switch it up. So like Karen and I and Alicia wouldn't be a problem identifier, and just kind of split it that way.
So am I the one that needs to find the other article with that?
No, so you would for the diversity part here and for the performance appraisal.
But when
I'm assuming you guys are looking at, right, I can't see anything except for our video.
I'm actually on it. I'm on my laptop.
I'm sorry. I thought I shared my screen. Did it not share?
Yeah, I can flip my here. I can flip
Oh,
those.
here. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. Oh, now it's doing something.
There you
Oh.
go.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So, so like here, so I would identify the problem in the case for the performance appraisals, and then the other four, like, so I just put Karen would be no fear reviews. Well, Alicia, you would have to go find a different solution, and Jennifer, you would have to find a different solution.
Okay.
So the quicker you go in and tag,
You
what
get your answers done.
the better. So like the three of us have a greater advantage. Or two are not here, I guess, to kind of go in and pick our now, because we haven't talked about these yet. I don't know if you want to get it kind of a head start and start looking at it and kind of pick your solution or whatever. But then that way we're all kind of working on our own thing, but then the responsibility falls on each of us to do a little bit, I think. And so we're not trying to stress about meeting together and working on it together. Because I know.
No, I love it.
So
yeah, super
I just put our final is due on the 16th. So I thought if we can at least have the rough draft due on like the 11th. And I just thought we could take what we've got up here and put it down here, and then just so that we can all simultaneously work on the problem. And just put it in here, and then one of us, whoever submits it that week, just obviously like download it and delete all of this article.
Right.
So I figured that would give whoever was going, so then I said, use at least one external resource, and then one person needs to write the last paragraph, which is giving a detailed account, explains why. So we have to pick one of the solutions or one of the problems that's the biggest priority, and then detail how the solution will be implemented, I guess. I didn't really quite understand that. But I don't know. So we can maybe figure that out. But it says you just.
So with the solutions, we should write a paragraph on that.
It is a paragraph, yeah.
Okay, just making sure, because I sorry, I need things repeated like 7 times.
No, that's fine. So, and then we just have to have one person edit it and then one person edit. So I kind of just made this outline because that's what she said that worked really well for them. So we don't have to use it. It just was.
Well, I love that. I think it's so organized, and it's going to make sure that it gets done, and then it keeps people accountable, like, hey, like, I know who's doing their job and who's not, kind of a thing,
Right. So, you could go in and pick what you want to do. So, Jennifer, if you want to take this one and do the problem first, or
okay.
You do it as is, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be good if like it was us 3 for the first one because we met.
We kind of know what we're doing. So hopefully, I told Karen I would send this to her. Hopefully they watch it so they know kind of the idea. It's hard to, we still have next week to talk about it too, but I would prefer to be kind of ahead of the curve instead of trying to do it at the very last minute. But that's just.
Right. I agree. That way we can do it when we have time to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And then it, and if we have the rough draft, kind of like everything put together, that gives the person who's going to submit it or who's going to edit it at least 3 days to kind of make it cohesive and flow. And, we're not rushing to do that. So.
Agreed.
Next week when everybody's here, we can assign that, like who's going to turn it in, who's going to edit it, and then we'll just take turns throughout the next.
Okay. How are you going to email us the link to that?
Yeah. Yep. I did.
Oh, did you?
I did. Yeah. Did you get it, Alicia?
Yeah, I'm looking right at it.
So
today or
this morning, I'll email it again. I didn't email it. I just shared it with you. So if you go into like your Google Drive, maybe.
Okay.
Usually an email gets sent with it, but.
How did you get it, Alicia? Did it just?
I just got an email that said that you wanted to share, that Jordan wanted to share the document, and so I opened it and I was looking at it and I was like, oh, what is this?
I know.
Okay, I don't see it on my Google email. To be quite honest, I don't use Google Drive, but you like Google Docs, but my kids do. So I'm not afraid of it or anything. I'm just saying I don't know exactly how to look for it, but I'm sure I'll find it.
What's the better email? Because I can send it to a different email for you.
Well, if you use my Google, which you already have access to, it should go through to like my phone and my computer. And I don't see an email.
So it's JENIFERYORK7 @gmail, right?
Correct.
No, I don't. Then I should have.
That is correct. But like I said, I don't know how to navigate Google really well. So maybe if I just play around with it, I can even find it. Okay. Here we go. See, here's Google Docs in my app thing.
So it should, like, there should be a thing on the side that says shared with me. Okay, so if you go to Google Drive, then.
But I can, like I said, my high school kids, they all use, that's what the schools have them use, is Google Docs.
Okay.
So they can help me navigate it, I'm sure.
Okay, if you can't find it, let me know and I'll
Okay.
resend you the link, and then that way you'll be able to open it directly from the link.
Will do.
That would be a good way.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, awesome.
Any questions or?
Is there anything else we gotta do? So we just have to now put this video on the discussion board.
So I'll post that, and then I guess one of you guys needs to pick to be team leader next week. So
he asked in the email to go in order. Did you guys notice that?
I didn't. Nope.
Oh, he did. Who's next in line?
I don't even remember. I know I'm further down in the line.
It might be. I'll check. I don't actually know.
Oh, I didn't even realize. I didn't do that.
But I do think you were first in line, weren't you, Jordan? Anyway.
I don't know. I just was like, because I have so many group meetings, I needed to be on top of.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm telling you, I'm losing my mind in all of this. So maybe it's a different class that asked us to do that. I don't think so, though.
You're probably right. Let me look at this and see. I mean, that would make sense, I guess, to go in order.
So Eleanor, wait, no. Jordan, you were the first one, so Karen's the next one.
Okay, I'll let her know. Hopefully she won't have a problem with that. Yeah. I felt so bad. I'm like, why isn't she responding? So I just texted her this morning. I was like, hey, I just didn't know if you had seen her text. She's like, I didn't get any.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, did she try to reach out to anybody either?
No. So then I didn't feel that.
There we go.
I was like, well, I guess you didn't reach out, so I don't feel too bad. But
no. I mean, that's sad we didn't get with everybody earlier, but
yeah,
you gotta take it.
So it's good. It worked out. So I'm glad that we connected, and she'll be with us next week. So
yep.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. Did we do? So I will send a text because I've got too many things open right now, and I don't know. I think that's what he said was to go in order.
Well, I think that's like a good way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm good with that. And then if for some reason somebody has to switch, I don't think that's going to be a big deal. So we can send her a text and see if she's okay with that. And then I guess we can start working on the doohickeys, for at least the problems in this one with the performance reviews. So if you guys want to, find your solution, kind of claim it. So that way, like if you claim no fear appraisals and Jennifer, you claim team building or something, I don't even know how
it's gonna be easier later.
Right. And then that way the other two have to come up with something different. So.
Yeah. So if they look up other articles, like supporting articles, where do you go for that? Or like, I just am kind of confused.
Probably Google like performance appraisals and like solutions for, or how to handle a performance review. Probably, don't you think, Jennifer, maybe?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense because I was just like, I don't even know, but now I know. Now I get it. Okay.
Yeah. So just, you just have to propose a solution. So I haven't read through this, I'm going to be honest, what it is, but I'm assuming there's a problem in here about performance reviews, and either they're not being done or they.
Oh, well.
So I don't exactly know what the problem is with that, but just coming. So if you were going into a new HR office, how would you solve the problem of performance reviews? Like if they weren't doing them, what would you start implementing? I think is what they're looking for.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I would agree.
He was going to give us a sample paper, or was that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Teacher said they were going to give.
He did say something about a sample paper, so I'm sure that'll come.
He did.
He did say that?
I remember reading that somewhere.
Okay, I tried to find it this morning and I couldn't find it. And so I was looking for sample paper. So maybe I'll just post on the discussion board asking if he was going to provide one. But he's going to be in Hawaii this week. Rough life.
Right? 2 weeks. Didn't he say 2 weeks?
Something like that after his appendix. Jeez.
I know. Yeah, well, he had a rough life last week for sure.
Good. Can you imagine? Oh, terrible.
All right. Well, thanks, ladies. Is there
All
anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I'll look for that document. If I can't find it, I'll text you.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.